ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. I deem it a great privilege to stand before you on this day, the day on which the great Gokhale was born. Gokhale lived only for 49 years, and he was a teacher. But the few years he spent in public life makes all the difference as far as Indian political struggle is concerned. As a student, when I looked into his biography and his achievements, because we are all born much after his death. As a lawyer and as a judge, two things impressed me, and it only showed how far he was ahead of the generation. Today in the country, from top to bottom, everybody talks about Constitution. And their interpretation of Constitution varies from place to place, from subject to subject. But one good thing is everybody talks about Constitution. And this talk of Constitution, when it was commenced, is the question. They say Ambedkar gave Constitution to India, and now we are all beneficiaries, and he is the author of the Indian Constitution. Let us not go into all those things. But the first person on the Indian soil who spoke about a constitution and the constitutional means to achieve independence is Gokhale. The moment he became a member of the Imperial Council, he tried his best to cooperate with the Britishers, because don't think about today. We are talking about 1900. The British government was all powerful. His whole object was to see what best he can do to this country and to the men. And he spoke about this constitutional means of achieving independence. In one of the public speeches in Madras, when he was speaking about this constitutional methods to achieve independence, somebody from the crowd sent a slip. It read as this: "Well, tell us which country has obtained freedom by strictly constitutional methods. Have you studied history?" So this is the question put to Sri Gokhale in the public speech. Though he was a pious man, a gentleman, a learned man, a godly man, he was a man with courage. He did not think twice. And the answer he gave in that public speech was this: maybe no country has yet done so, but why not India? Do so for the first time and start a precedent in history. That is what Mr. Gokhale is. He was not a person who was simply following. He was a thinker. He knew what best to the country at that point of time, knowing the limitations of this country. His disciple is Mr. Mahatma Gandhi. He also did not agree with him. This is what he said in reply to these constitutional methods. People ask us about constitutional methods and ask the Congress to adopt it. That is, he was referring to Gokhale. No nation, in my knowledge, has obtained freedom by this means. So outright he rejected it. And the rest is history. How did we get independence? What did Mr. Gandhi do? It only shows how high he was thinking. And others were pygmies before him. Unfortunately, he did not live long. Probably, if he had lived, the course of our freedom struggle probably would have been totally different. So, as a student of constitutional law, as a lawyer, as a judge, when I look back, this is the first stage of constitutional law in the country. We started somewhere in 1900. And people have forgotten it because, in fact, that will be my theme today. Our Indian history is written by Westerners from their angle. Indians also have written history from a Western angle. So where do we get the truth? How do we know the truth? It is said the best way to understand history is not by reading these books written by historians. If it's possible, best go to the material of that particular generation. You read for yourself this undisputed material, then you draw your own conclusions. And that's precisely what I would like to do today, because I am also interested in history. In school we have read history. Afterwards I have read so many books. Nothing original. And we just believe what they are saying is correct. Now probably at this age of mine, when I look at it in a critical manner, I can make out that all what they are saying is not correct. Therefore, let us try to understand what the history is, what is this freedom struggle, how the constitution came into force, and how that constitution is being worked after we got independence. Now, the second and the most important thing which struck me about Gokhale was when he became a member of the Imperial Council. See his courage. The first thing he did was, he introduced a resolution in the Imperial Legislative Council asking that the committee should be appointed to examine the question whether free and compulsory education might be introduced, and if so, how. See the man's courage. He introduced the resolution, wanted a committee to be appointed because he thought India, if it has to survive, if it has to get independence, it is only through the mode of education. He wanted compulsory education in 1900. Of course, the government was too strong. He immediately withdrew it. He did not live there. Again, he introduced a bill trying to make education compulsory by removing certain clauses which he thought would not be approved. That is in 1902. Now Britishers had come here to do business, to take our wealth. Education means spending. Why will any government spend money for the education of our children? So that was also not possible. But what I want to impress upon is, here is a man who had the interest of the country at heart, and he knew what genuinely is to be done. He was not worried about votes. He was not worried about posts. The moment he got a post, he utilized that opportunity to see India's salvation is possible only if education is given to them, attended at compulsory education. This is in 1902. We got independence in 1947. We have the constitution in 1950. What did our people do? Then the Britishers had to spend money. It was a British government. They were not willing to do it. After you got independence, what are your priorities? What should have been the priorities? The parliament did not bother about it. They put this subject in the directive principle of state policy in the Indian constitution, did not take any action. Only when in 1986, the Supreme Court ruled that right to education is a fundamental right and the government should give free education. Of course, they also went to an extent of saying entire education should be free. Then a constitution bench was constituted. That is the famous Unnikrishnan's case, where they said, no, you can't have full education, but you can have primary education up to the age of 14. It is after that judgment, in 2000, the constitution is amended. And now today, this compulsory education, primary education, is a fundamental right enshrined in our constitution. To do this, after independence, our rulers have taken 50 long years. That is because of the compulsion of the Supreme Court. So now look back. If only we had this primary education available to all the citizens of the country would not have been what it is today. And probably people had cooperated, because when you look at history, every time he was criticized. And the more he was criticized, he was commanding more respect. And if there is one person who has commanded more respect after his death, it is Mr. Gokhale. The people will come to know his worth only thereafter. So now, it is in this background. That's why I said I deem it a great privilege to address you on this occasion, because though as a student I had studied him, for quite some time I have been studying his life history, my respect to him has multiplied 100 times. And I think Balagangadhara Tilak, when his body was put on the bier, he gave a speech. He said, I do not know whether a man of his caliber will ever be born in this country. And if you ask me, no person of his caliber is ever born so far after his death. That's the man whom we are talking about today. Now, the topic I have chosen is the Constitution. I am not going to trouble you with the constitutional law. Democracy, all of you are a party to it. And you are enjoying it and practicing it also. And the rule of law. We have the best constitution in this world. No two things about it. India is the biggest democracy in the world today. And democracy has taken deep roots in this country. Probably it is irreversible. It should not be reversed. And the rule of law, our Supreme Court, forget about the recent days. Our Supreme Court was held to be the most powerful Supreme Court in the world, because they have made a lot of difference as far as India is concerned when the executive and the legislature fail. Now, what I want to share with you is, when we have the best of the constitution in the world, when democracy is deep-rooted in this country, when rule of law is practiced, an independent judiciary is there, what we have achieved after independence, is it commensurate to all these great institutions? Other countries who became independent, who are smaller than us, who doesn't have the resources as we have, they have grown far away. Why is that we are struggling? Why is that the today society total unrest? And how do you improve these institutions? Or these institutions are going to find solution to our problems? Is what is bothering me. You talk about social justice, you talk about reservation, you talk about economic upliftment. Fine, all that is required. But is it going to find a final solution to the problems of this country? Therefore, first we have to find out what is the problem of the country. When you want to find out what is the problem of the country, where we started, where we have ended, again you have to look to the history. That's where I am afraid of these historians. But one thing is certain, 800 years of Muslim rule in this country, they were only interested in converting people. But they did not touch our culture. But the 200 years of British rule has done incalculable damage to this country. Unless we realize that, probably we will not be able to find a solution. What is the damage this 200 years of British rule has done to this country? How was India before they came? How was India after they left? And how is India in the last 70 years when power was transferred to us? Now, you know, Britishers did not come with an army into this country. It is the East India Company which came here as businessmen, and slowly they brought in army, protected commercial interest, and ultimately, after that 1957 war, the Britishers took over the administration straight away. Now, when the Britishers took out the administration, what was the position? What is it that they wanted to do to this country? You know, they came here, they conquered us, and if there was no wealth in this country, nobody would have wasted their time and energy. If no other country is not invaded as the India, it is simple reason, there was no wealth there. People go after wealth. India was the wealthiest country. India was a superpower. People came here for business. People came here for education. The great Nalanda, the great Takshashila is uncomparable. No Harvard, no Oxford. They're all recent origins. So therefore I was looking into, because we were all born after independence. We don't know what was the country earlier. And as I said, I'm afraid of these historians. Therefore I was looking into some material which gives me an idea of what the country was. One such material I possessed was this. Britishers, after they took over administration, they wanted to make sure that they remain here forever. So they wanted to know, they do it in a systematic way, they wanted to know what should be done to keep this country under control for all time to come. So they sent one of the learned men, Lord Macaulay. I have highest regard for him because today the law which is administered in this country is the law drafted by Lord Macaulay. Indian Constitution is amended in the last 50 years 101 times. We are unable to change a comma and full stop of the drafting of Lord Macaulay. See, whoever it may be, we must respect him. That is the perfection in which he has drafted the law, Indian Penal Code, the Criminal Procedure Code, any law, take it for them. And it is that law which is even today administered by our courts. So he was sent to India, make a first-hand study. How can we subdue this country forever? He says he toured the country and submitted a report to the British Parliament. What is that report he submitted? He said, please mark those words. Let us not look into other historical books. I have travelled across the length and breadth of India. So it is not based on a historian who sits in the library, looks into the books, collects materials and writes it. Here is a person who toured, travelled across length and breadth of India, and he says, I have not seen one person who is a beggar. I have not seen in India in 1835, who is a beggar, who is a thief. He did not see a beggar, he did not see a thief, and you know what it is today. Country is full of beggars, country is full of thieves, top to bottom. Who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country. So that was the wealth which was available in this country in 1835 when he surveyed the whole country. Then he says, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation. See the words he has said. It is impossible to conquer this country. If we have to conquer the country, we must break that backbone. What is that backbone? Which is a spiritual and cultural heritage. Spiritual and cultural heritage. So he has identified the strong points in this country. As I said, he is a very intelligent man. He says we can do what we want to do. This is what is to be done. So this is what he is telling the British Parliament, who wanted to know how to subdue this country. And he says how it can be done. And therefore I propose that we replace our old and ancient education system. Please mark these words. It is the education system which was prevalent in this country which produced people of that caliber and people with full of cultural heritage. If you want to break the backbone of this country, you should destroy that. How do you do it? Destroy the education system. If you destroy the education system and then her culture, he did not say why it should be done. This is where we have to bow our head in shame even today. He says, for if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good, all that is foreign and English is good, and greater their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. That is where we stand today. If you look at a white-skinned man, suddenly you start respecting him. So for the last 200 years, it is in our blood. They have made us slaves. We believe English means superior. Englishman, superior. Whatever is foreign is superior. And whatever is Indian is inferior. So we have lost self-respect. We are a country of people who have no self-respect. A country who has no respect for their own culture. A country who is anxious to imbibe the Western culture. This is what the Britishers wanted to do, to control the whole country and to keep the country under their control. And they have done it. That is the most unfortunate, but they have done it. They have very, very efficiently done it, because whatever they do it efficiently, good or bad. And they have the assistance of a person like Gokhale. They have the entire missionary at their command. And we, the Indian people, who believe Atithi Devo Bhava, so we invited them. For us, whatever foreign is good, English is good, our culture is bad, our heritage is bad, so we are suffering from an inferiority complex. Now you please see in 2017, if you talk about your culture, what the public will say. Forget about 1835. Today, after 75 years of independence, if you talk about the Indian culture, where do you stand? You are called a communal person. You are a person on whom English education had no effect. Because once you have English education, you are supposed to be a very cultured person. And if a lawyer, a doctor, a person who has well-read, if he talks about culture, the immediate reaction of the people is, this education had no effect on him. See, he is talking the same thing. He is talking about our culture. This is what we are today. And this is precisely what Macaulay told the British Parliament, and they have systematically done it. Now my question is, after we got independence, after we have the best constitution in the world, after we have got democracy and power in our hand and the rule of law, what have we done to rectify this? First of all, do we know where we stand? Do we know what the problem is? If you know the problem, you can solve the problem. If you know the disease, you can give medicine. If you don't know the disease at all. Now, what is the effect of this on the society? It was 1835. Virtually the freedom struggle started somewhere in 1980. Then Congress, when it got support, first they wanted, as Gokhale wanted, a constitutional method. They did not want complete independence. They wanted to be under the control of Britishers. They wanted certain rights to be conferred on them. They were moderates. We have another, before this constitution, we have 6 constitutions. What is best in that constitution is also taken in this constitution. Let us be clear about it. This constitution did not come from heaven. Before the Indian constitution, during Britishism, we had 5 constitutions. And the present constitution is a replica of 1935 constitution plus the fundamental rights. Not that anybody has done anything else. So, there was a movement for achieving freedom. When people got frustrated, one fine day they said, we want Sampurna Swaraj. And to pass that resolution, they have taken 10 years. That was the period. When this talk of Sampurna Swaraj started, somewhere in 1921, what was the position of the country? What was the society? Were we prepared for that? Now, I will not quote from any passage of any book. I just wanted to read to you what Rajaji, Chakravarti Rajgopalachari, Rajaji, according to the most intelligent politician the country ever has produced. He was in jail. He was a part of Congress. He is also a part of freedom movement. When youngsters take control, the elders have to keep quiet. So they said, we want complete freedom. Sampurna Swaraj. So he has said about this concept of Swaraj. Is it suitable for this country? This is in 1921, from jail he wrote. It is published in Indian Review. We all ought to know that Swaraj will not at once, or I think even for a long time to come, be better government or greater happiness for the people. This is what Rajaji is saying in 1921. Even if it comes, it will not give you a better government or a greater happiness. Why? He was a part of the freedom struggle. He was a leader of the Congress. They are fighting for independence. And this man says in 1921 from this, because we are dealing with democracy. In all the constitutions which came earlier, the attempt was to give power to the locals, because earlier only Britishers were there. All higher government officials were Britishers. The Indians were not given a share in the governance. And the entire fight was to give governance. They wanted to be elected. They wanted to be elected to these assemblies. So in this context, this is what Rajaji has said. This is what you want? Sampurna Swaraj? Democracy? You want elections? You want to be elected? You want to replace the Britishers? That's your aim. He says, elections and their corruptions. That is what he is saying in 1921. Elections and their corruptions, injustice, and the power and tyranny of wealth, and inefficiency of administration. All of you are present, citizens of this country. You also held posts. Probably most of you are retired. If everyone has 40, 50 years of experience, and please look at the society today and the society what Rajaji is explaining in 21. Elections and their corruptions, because in another 3 days we are also going to have the elections. Elections and corruptions, injustice, and the power and tyranny of wealth and inefficiency of administration will make a hell of life as soon as freedom is given to us. A hell of life as soon as freedom is given to us. Men will look regretfully back to the old regime of comparative justice and efficient, peaceful, more or less honest administration. The only thing gained will be saved from dishonor and subordination. All of us are born in free India. We are not slaves of Britishers. Except that this is what Rajaji says you will get if you want Sampurna Swaraj. This is not what a historian is writing, because we have not seen any historian writing about the society in that year. Here is a man who was in the forefront of freedom struggle, who has been jailed, who did not agree with the youngsters about this Sampurna Swaraj. And he knows once elections comes, you call it democracy, this is the result. That's why I said Constitution. We are the biggest democracy in the world. Democratic principles have taken deep roots in the country. It is irreversible. And what sort of democracy is that? Is it after independence? Before independence, was it better? Is what is troubling me. And if you look at this, I don't think we have not changed. Maybe little improvement, that's all. Now this is the perspective of an Indian Congress leader in 1921. So I said what Gokhale wanted to do, they have implemented it. Now in 1942 we had this Quit India movement. We wanted freedom. At that point of time, the Prime Minister of Britain was Winston Churchill, a very strong man. He said, no, we will not give freedom. Why? Not that he said India will go out of our hand. He was also a statesman. You see why he has said India is not ready for freedom. I will not give, because only in the election the Conservatives lost. Labour Party came to power in 1945 and Attlee became the Prime Minister and he granted the independence. Now please see, if I say tomorrow somebody will issue a defamatory statement to me, but anyhow, I am only quoting what Winston Churchill said in 1922 about our politicians, why he is not giving power. Please mark these words. Power, if freedom is given, power will go to the hands of rascals, rogues, freebooters. All Indian leaders will be of low caliber and men of straw. They will have sweet tongues and silly hearts. They will fight among themselves for power. And India will be lost in political squabbles. A day would come when even air and water would be taxed in India. So already water is taxed. We do not know when taxation of air will start. Anyhow, assuming that it is false, we have proved him right. After independence, we have proved him right. But even this great man did not know what will be the future in India. He was only referring to the rascals, rogues and freebooters. He did not imagine in a free India, murderers, dacoits, money launderers will occupy the parliament. He was poor. His knowledge of India is very, very poor. He only said rascals and scoundrels. We have proved him wrong and we have made this improvement. Please see, there was a cabinet minister who was held guilty of a murder and police were able to lay his hand because he was escaping. He is a cabinet minister in the Narasimharaja government. If a cabinet minister is absconding, if police can't lay his hand, why do we need a police? Dacoits, they were returned to Lok Sabha, not once, twice. Under a written constitution, which is the best, being the biggest democracy in this world, and under the nose of rule of law. So therefore, I am sure nobody can issue me a legal notice. This is what Churchill has said few years before independence. Now, let us assume Churchill was not a friend of India. He was an Englishman. He treated as B-class citizens, slaves. So what I was wondering was, we got independence in 47. We had tall leaders, great freedom fighters. Then a Constituent Assembly was constituted. They took 3 years. A Constituent Assembly in turn appointed a drafting committee for Constitution. They took about 3 years to draft this Constitution. Now, Babu Rajendra Prasad was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. Dr. Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee. The constitution was placed before the Constitutional Assembly for approval. It was approved. Then the members profusely thanked both Mr. Ambedkar and Prasad for giving to this country this great constitution. They have given the reply. If you read that reply, that will give you an indication who are the persons who are behind the constitution. If I say it is wrong, if you say it is wrong, you hear it from the mouth of Dr. Ambedkar. Who are responsible for the constitution? Today is not that subject, I will go in. But what I am trying to say is, these two great men who had the interest of the heart, of the country at heart, labored and they have given us a great constitution. Were they happy? Were they aware of the problems faced by the India on the date of independence and what is ahead of us? Did they feel that the constitution which they have given to us is going to solve our problem? The whole object of a constitution is the India will be governed by these provisions. Rule of law. No one is above law. All are equal. You find so many provisions there. Still, were they happy with the constitution? Did they believe that this constitution is going to do good to the country and the problems of the country would be solved and the common man would be happy? In reply, the tax giving, this is what these two great men have held. I was not able to understand when I read it. Now, after little study, after seeing what Rajaji has said, what Churchill has said earlier, then now I understand it in a better fashion. What Rajendra Prasad said was, whatever the constitution may or may not provide, the welfare of the country will depend upon the way in which the country is administered. We have the best of constitution. Is the country administered in true terms of the constitution is the question. So he said, if you are administering the country in terms of the constitution, welfare is assured. But he had his own doubt. That will depend on the men who administer it. That will depend on the men who administer it. It is straight a saying that a country can have only the government it deserves. So we can't have any grievance. The government is what we deserve. After all, a constitution, like a machine, is a lifeless thing. If the people who are elected are capable and men of character and integrity, they would be able to make the best even of a defective constitution. You don't need a good constitution. If they are lacking in these, the constitution cannot help the country. So the best constitution we have, it is not able to help the country. And this is his hope. India needs today, the day is in 1950, today, nothing more than a set of honest men who will have the interest of the country before them. This is a sentence I was not able to understand. Why is he saying? We had so many great leaders, freedom fighters, they sacrificed for the country. Did we not have honest people? Now this great man is saying what the country needs in 1950, a set of honest people. They were not there. We thought these are all great leaders. We worship them. They were heroes. And here this man is saying, we don't have a handful of honest people who can carry out the constitution. This is what an Indian is saying. He was our first president. He was the president of the Constitutional Assembly. He was the president for 10 long years. He is a freedom fighter. He is doubtful. We have given you the best of constitution. For this constitution to work, it depends on the people who are going to work it. And that people should have character. And I don't find them here. And it entire depends upon a set of honest people. If a set of honest people were not there in 1950, in 1970, where will you bring them? Why are you blaming these people? It's a hard truth. Now, the other gentleman, Ambedkar, also has said something about this constitution. People, without knowing what the constitution has said, people are talking today. Please see what Ambedkar has said. However good a constitution may be, it is sure to turn out bad because those who are called to work it happen to be a bad lot. So the greatness of constitution does not depend upon the words used there. It is who are called upon to work it, who are going to implement it. However bad a constitution may be, it may turn out to be good if those who are called to work it happen to be good lot. You don't need a constitution at all. If the people are good, people are honest, if they have the interest of the country at heart, like our Gokhale, you don't need a constitution. You have given the best of constitution, but such people are not there. Constitution is helpless. The working of the constitution does not depend wholly upon the nature of the constitution. The constitution can provide only the organs of the state, such as the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. It has provided. And you are seeing now how the judiciary is functioning. You are seeing how the parliament is functioning. You are also seeing how the executive is functioning. The constitution has provided for it the best. The factors on which the working of these organs of the state depend are the people and the political parties. They will set up as their instruments to carry out their wishes and their policies. See, this man, who can say how the people of India and their parties will behave? He had no clue how these people will behave, however intelligent they may be. So they said it all depends on the person. Today a person starts a political party to protect the interests of his family. Now we have families generation. After independence, the only thing that has happened is this Archak's right was a hereditary right. That is abolished. But the office of the president, office of the prime minister, office of a chief minister, office of a high court judge, all have become hereditary. Archakship, no hereditary. All these people, that is the improvement made under the constitution in the name of rule of law in democracy. Now this is what they said in 1950. Both of them, Ambedkar died very early. After 10 years, Rajendra Prasad, probably they did not want to see how their constitution will work. So when this liberalization started in this country, there was a bitter criticism from both sides. Therefore, what the Union of India did was, it constituted a committee on 9/7/1983 under the chairmanship of Sri N.N. Vora, the erstwhile Home Secretary, to take urgent stock of all available information about the activities and the links of all mafia organizations, elements, to enable further action. Because by that time, because we had independence, we can do whatever we want. So people exercise their independence. India is a republic, but we have seen each one has their republic in their area, underworld, you call it mafia. So that was having an adverse effect on the elections and affecting the economy of the country, affecting the administration of the country. So therefore, Union of India thought we should do something, otherwise we will also not survive. The committee went into it in detail and they have submitted a report. It shows how, after independence, our constitution, this democracy, rule of law has worked. Because after completion of 50 years, a committee was constituted under the chairmanship of our former Chief Justice of India, M. N. Venkatachalaya, to review the working of the constitution. They have given a report. They have made some recommendations. They are all gentlemen. Problem with the gentleman is they think everybody is a gentleman. That's the problem. Here is a Vohra, he is a Home Secretary. He was dealing with only scoundrels. And so he has given a report. Please see what he says. There has been a rapid spread and growth of criminal gangs, armed senas, drug mafias, smuggling gangs, drug peddlers, and economic lobbies in the country, which have, over the years, developed an extensive network of contacts with whom? With the bureaucrats, government functionaries at the local levels, politicians, media persons, and strategically located individuals in a non-state sector, and this is more shocking, and members of the judiciary. Some of these criminal syndicates also have international linkages, including the foreign intelligence agencies. The report recommended that an efficient nodal cell be set up with powers to take stringent action against some syndicates while ensuring that it would be immune from being exploited or influenced. So this is the progress India made under a written constitution, enjoying the benefits of democracy, respecting the rule of law, 50 to 90. What action was taken? Who should take action? The very persons against whom the report is given. It is the very same politicians, it is the very same bureaucrats who are expected to take action against them. They are the beneficiaries. Where do they get the courage to take action? When you are a party to all these deals, where do you get the courage to take action? Wonderful report is there and it is kept in the cold storage. Now, not that the Constitution has not done anything good for this country. First, it's a republic. A common man can become the president of India. And we have seen common man have become president of India. And even the latest, the present president also is a humble beginning and he has reached it. To that extent, Indian Constitution is great. Today, a common man can become a president. Now, the Indian Constitution has given fundamental rights to its citizens. Today, I and you are safe because of the Indian Constitution. We are in danger because of the interpretation today sought to be placed on the Indian Constitution. Therefore, if you want to be safe, it is time that you rise and you also talk about Constitution. You also say what is your interpretation. If you keep your mouth shut, the interpretation they are going to place will become the interpretation and then your life will be in danger. That's the whole object of my speech. It is we who are guilty. It is we who are at fault. Today, everybody on the footpath talks about Constitution. You are not talking about Constitution. Whatever right you want to assert, he says it is the Constitution. Whether it is there or not, God only knows. Everybody today quotes Constitution. You see any speeches? Constitution, Constitution, Constitution. So Constitution has said, do all these things. Now, the silver line in the Constitution provision is the equality clause. That was very much needed for this country because the criticism against our country was the society was divided on the basis of caste, other considerations. Some people were treated as not even as human beings. And then what sort of country is this? Therefore, Article 17 of the Constitution, by a stroke of pen, abolished untouchability in this country. And today, all are equal. That is from 1950. Then, you must know, when we got independence, there was bloodshed. The Muslims were in a confused state whether to go to Pakistan or to remain here. And Britishers had gone, some Christian population was also here. So it was necessary to assure them, look, in free India, you will be safe. You are not going to be discriminated merely because you belong to a religious minority. If Article 14 is properly interpreted, whether it's a minority or a majority, everybody has got equal rights. But to assure them, few more provisions were introduced in the Constitution, which are now called as constitutional provisions protecting minority rights. It's not a correct understanding of law at all. When the Constitution says every citizen of this country is equal before law, it includes majority, it includes minority. Anyhow, to assure them, because of that bloodshed and all, these provisions were introduced. Fine. What is the object? Object is to see that they are not discriminated. They are not discriminated in public employment, they are not discriminated in education, they are not discriminated anyway. They will have full right which a majority has. That's the greatness of the Indian Constitution. It has been implemented in letter and spirit in this country. If it had ended there, this problem was not there. Today, the way the Constitution is interpreted and those provisions are interpreted is the rights which the minority claim is not available to the majority. You give them special rights, fine. But they cannot be superior to majority. You cannot be an inferior citizen calling yourself a majority. That was not the object of law. Nowhere in the world it is possible. Today you cannot talk about a minority right in public. Then you are called as a person who is communal, casteist, who has no respect for the Constitution. And in the name of the Constitution, in the name of this minority rights, see please what's happening in the country. And you are a silent spectator. As long as you are a silent spectator, this continues because they are interpreting the Constitution. This is what the Constitution says. All that the Constitution says is no one can be discriminated. All are equal. Whether he belongs to majority, whether he belongs to minority, whether he belongs to this caste, that caste. No. Everybody is equal. Minority institutions were given opportunity to have their own educational institutions. They said, we will not interfere. You have places of worship, we will not interfere. But did the Constitution give the power of the government to interfere with the majority's place of worship, place of educational institutions? Are we second-class citizens in this country? Today the Constitution is interpreted in that fashion. If one temple comes up very well, start earning money, the government will go and take it because they have the power. The same government has no guts. They are impotent as far as these minority institutions are concerned. Is it what the Constitution says? Is it what the rule of law says? Where is the rule of law? Before law, everybody is equal. Today, the word secularism, the way it is defined, I can't say I am a Hindu because I become a scoundrel. But they could say, and you can't open mouth. That's how the Constitution is interpreted today. And they say democracy. Democracy means majority rule. So majority can't do anything. Please see, if you say something, they say you don't have patience. If India and Indians have no patience, who else have patience? I don't know. If we did not have patience, how did they thrive here? And see the language they speak. I don't know whether you have seen some videos which are under circulation. What's happening in Kerala? What's happening in West Bengal? Is it part of India or not? I doubt. In spite of all that, we are keeping quiet. Why do you blame them? Same Constitution gives you right also. You are not aware of your constitutional right. You are only worried about their constitutional right. You are afraid of saying what you are. You are afraid of saying whom you are born. Is it what the democracy is? Is it what the Constitution says? Is it what the rule of law? And sometimes you have seen peculiar interpretation even by the highest court. All this I am saying for this simple reason. Whether you are interpreting a constitutional provision, whether you are talking about democracy, whether you are talking about rule of law, please keep in mind that you are talking in India. Please know the culture of this country. Please know the spirituality which is the asset of this country. And when spirituality was respected, culture was respected, there was wealth in this country. There was no beggar. There was no thief. Because we have given up this culture, because we are away from spirituality, today the country is full of beggars, country is full of not thieves, dacoits. Everybody who gets power, as early as possible, he has to make a fortune. I also sympathize with them. To get a ticket of a political party, he should pay money. Then he should spend money for election. After getting elected, he should recoup his investment. And while recouping investment, he should also make a provision for next election. After making provision for all this, he will think of his wife and children. Poor fellow. It's some form of socialism. You earn, distribute it. And in the constitution we have the word socialism still there. So we have seen how Nazism was practiced in this world. We have seen how Marxism, communism was practiced. We have seen in India itself how socialism was practiced. Now we are all the beneficiaries of enjoying the capitalism. Please tell me, any one of these isms, has it got you what you want? Are you peaceful? Are you happy? Take any of these isms. But when these isms were not there, the country was happy. Country was wealthy. And therefore, if we today want happiness, want orderliness in this country, what is that we want? Is this constitution is going to provide us that? Is this democracy is going to provide us that? Or is this rule of law? Or something more is required? If something more is required, are we attempting to get it? The way in which today the media, the press, the so-called intellectuals shout when there is a small incident, I don't think there is any possibility of our calling ourselves as the inheritors of that great heritage, culture. So what is in trouble today, what is in danger today is that culture. When I talk about culture, the great historian Hon'ble has said two things. If you are interested in history, if you are interested in culture, if you are proud of this culture and to be called an Indian, please bear these two things in mind. After studying the entire world history, this is what he has recorded. Of the past 21 civilizations on this earth, 19 were wiped out not because of any aggression from outside, but because of degradation of man's moral values. 21 civilization he has recognized. 19 are wiped out, not because of wars, not because of army, not because of hydrogen bomb, atom bomb. It is man's moral values, degradation of man's moral values. So that's where we stand today. If you allow this degradation of moral values to continue in this country, either in the name of constitution, or in the name of democracy, or in the name of rule of law, this great ancient civilization will disappear. It is not Karnataka, it is not Bengaluru, Baswangudi. We should be thinking about this great culture which we have inherited, which we represent, and which we are proud of. But what is more important is, he has said one more thing. What is that? In the middle of this century, India will conquer her conquerors. Culturally, not politically. That's the great hope we have. If India has to be the true leader of this world, if we have to conquer our conquerors, it is only possible through our culture, not politically. That's why I said Nazism is eliminated. Communism is gone. Marxism is gone. Maoism is gone. Socialism on the way. Communism has gone. But they are making an effort, especially in our country. And their target is our culture. It's a question of time if we stand by, hit back. It is not that easy, difficulty to throw them out. And therefore, this prediction of Arnold Toynbee in the middle of the century, so we have another 30 years. If we can cultivate our culture, protect our culture, preserve our culture, and speak about our culture, probably through cultural revolution. Not only India, we can conquer the world. Probably you see, I think we must be seeing these videos which are coming. In India, you cannot speak about Bhagavad Gita. In India, you cannot speak about Vedas. You are called a communal fellow. Today, you see in Europe, you see in America, the way the people are attracted to Bhagavad Gita, Vedas, and our culture. Our people are not convinced, but they are convinced because they are fed up with these isms. And now they say the only hope for future mankind is it has to come from India. And is India ready is the question. Is India ready? You please go to any Christian institution, because I visit all these colleges. I sometimes get angry. First there will be a prayer. They will also give me the paper, that particular stanza in the Bible. So everybody should read, I also should read. A welcome speech. Again one more. 4 or 5 stanzas are in from Bible is said. Nobody is talking about it. It is secular, is it? If you say Bhagavad Gita, or sometimes you want to lamp the light, there is an objection. Are we a majority or are we a minority? You go to any Muslim institution, except Quran, nothing else is there. So they have the right. I have no objection. Don't we have the right is what I am asking. We are the majority. We are holding the power. Don't we have the power? And our concept of secularism is, you should not talk about Krishna. You should not talk about Rama. That is no. Today please see how this Macaulay's attack has been taken over by others. Today you cannot say don't read Bhagavad Gita. You cannot say don't read Ramayana, because maybe there may be some protest. What they are trying to do is, see, you say Rama is a great man, Purushottama. What sort of man he is? He sent his wife when he was pregnant to the forest. He is your God? This is told to young children, not to me and you. Today nobody is telling them what is Ramayana. Those days are gone. Ajjinu illa, tatanu illa ಹೇಳೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ. ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಪ್ಪ ಅಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. How do they know about Ramayana? How would they know about character of Rama? And to them it is said, human rights violation. ತುಂಬಿದ ಗರ್ಭಿಣಿನ ಕಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಕಳಿಸಿದಾನೆ, ಎಂತ ಕಟುಕ ರಾಮ, ಅವನನ್ನು ನೀವು ಪುರುಷೋತ್ತಮ ಅಂತೀರಾ? See what will be its effect on the child. Will that child worship Rama? Forget reading Ramayana. See what is said about Krishna. You see, in the battlefield, Arjuna threw away his arms and said, I don't want to fight. What did he say? You are God? He says, go and fight. See Buddha. He said, no war. See Gandhi, ahimsa. See the great men, Gandhi, Buddha, they are all propounder of ahimsa. Your God is a quarrelsome fellow. And you call him a God? You want to worship him? Please see the effect of this argument on the young minds. The day they do not worship, forget about worshipping, they start hating Rama and Krishna, what should happen to your culture? Have you thought of it? You are sending your children to great schools. Do you know what they are taught and what they are not taught? Today, Gopala Krishna Gokhale's life history is taken from your books. Please see whose life histories are there. So they are all anti-national. They are not patriotic. This is how the education system. Not only they have destroyed our education system, now through the education system, they want to act on the mind of young people so that our culture is destroyed. Please go to polling booth and vote. That's a fundamental duty. But please find out what is your duty for the country. These votes are not going to... Whether BJP fellow will come, Congress fellow will come, JDS, it is not going to change. It's only the banners, the person is the same. And will they think about the culture of this country? And one man is thinking about the culture, therefore the entire country is about it. See the society in which we are living. And all these people are so-called educated. Now I ask you, when you get your children educated, what is that they are taught in the school? Chemistry, physics, MBA, engineering? That's all right. To earn your bread, it is sufficient. Is that education which a person should have? In the educational curriculum of any school for that matter today, is there anything said about our culture? Is that curriculum says you must be an honest person? You must be a person with integrity? And let me also want to know, how many of us are telling our children, you are getting employment, be honest. Don't take bribe. Don't hurt people. Try to help him. Are we advising them? Probably we don't have the moral courage to advise because we have not practiced it. And even if you practice it, the child may not say, you did this. The destruction of family, destruction of our village community is something which is irreparable. Indian Constitution, democracy, rule of law is not going to repair it. Don't expect this politician to repair all these things. If repair has to be done, it is to be done by you. Even now, time is not too late. All of us should spend some time in setting our house in order. ಅಯ್ಯೋ ನನ್ನ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಮಕ್ಕಳು ನನ್ನ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಮೊಮ್ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಬದುಕಿರ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು? ನೀವು ಅವ್ರ ಮಾತೆಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳೋ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಪರ್ಸನಾಲಿಟಿ. So therefore, I was wondering what we should do. I also don't know what. I am only telling you the problem. Solution I don't know. And it is not an easy solution. Then I was reading this book on Gopala Krishna Gokhale, written by Dr. D.V. Gundappa. There is a ray of hope. After analyzing all the speeches of, writings of, teachings of Gokhale, Dr. D.V. Gundappa, in his style, has said this. Probably it may be of some assistance to us in knowing what our duty is in the present circumstances. What is that we can do? Because we are nobody. We have no place at all. Can we keep quiet? So therefore I don't want to say. I will read what he has said and I will stop there. He has said the present, this is what he is writing in 1955. Now we are in 2017. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಗ್ರಹಿಸಬೇಕಾದ ತತ್ವವೇನೆಂದರೆ, ರಾಜ್ಯ ವಿಚಾರವು ನಾನಾ ತೆರದ ಜನಗಳ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕತಕ್ಕದ್ದಾದ್ದರಿಂದಲೂ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನನ್ನ ಕೈಗೂ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ, ಆ ಜನರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮ ಕ್ರೋಧಾದಿಗಳ ವಶರಾದವರು ಹೇರಳವಾಗಿರುವುದು ಸ್ವಾಭಾವಿಕವೇ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದಲೂ, ಅದು ತಪ್ಪು ಅವ್ರದಲ್ಲ, ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಅಂತದ್ದು. ಅಂಥವರಿಂದ ರಾಜ್ಯತಂತ್ರವು ಕಳಂಕ ಹೊಂದದಂತೆ ನೋಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಜಾಸೇವೆಯೊಂದನ್ನೇ ತಮ್ಮ ಜೀವಿತ ಧರ್ಮವೆಂದು ಭಾವಿಸಿರತಕ್ಕವರು ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಂಚ ಮಂದಿಯಾದರೂ ಇರುವುದು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಅವಶ್ಯಕ ಎಂಬುದು. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯು ಟು ನೋ ಟು ವಿಚ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಯು ಬಿಲಾಂಗ್. ರಾಜಕೀಯ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರವು ಆಶೆ ಮಾತ್ಸರ್ಯಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಶ್ರಯ ಸ್ಥಾನ. 100%. ನಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳ ನನಗೊಂದು ಹೊಟ್ಟೆವರಿಗೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ ಮೇಲೆ ಆ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಭದ್ರವಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಅವನಿಗೂ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಚೇರೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ದುರಾಕ್ಷೇಪಣೆಗಳು ದುರಾಗ್ರಹಗಳು ಮಿತಿಮೀರಿದಷ್ಟು ಇರುತ್ತವೆ. ಶಾಂತಿ ಸಮಾಧಾನಗಳನ್ನು ಸೂರೆಗೊಳ್ಳುವುದೇ ಅವರ ಸ್ವಭಾವ. ಆದರೆ ಸಾತ್ವಿಕರು, ಸಾಧುಚರಿತರು ಅದನ್ನು ಪಾಪ ಭೂಮಿ ಎಂದು ತೊರೆದು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ, ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್, ಅವರು ದುಷ್ಟರಿಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತಷ್ಟು ಅವಕಾಶ ಒದಗಿಸಂತಾಗುವುದು. ಸೊ ಫಾಲ್ಟ್ ಲೈಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಅಸ್, ನಾಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದೆಮ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಗಾಳಿ ಪ್ರವೇಶಿಸುವುದಿಲ್ಲವೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಗಾಳಿ ತಾನಾಗಿ ತುಂಬುವುದು ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಅನುಭವದ ಸಂಗತಿ. ರಾಜಕೀಯವು ಎಂತಾದರೂ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುವುದರಿಂದ ಸಜ್ಜನರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರವೇಶ ಮಾಡವೆಂದರೆ ದುಷ್ಟರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಲೆಸಲು ಸಿದ್ಧರಾಗಿಯೇ ಇರುವರು. ಹೀಗಿರುವಾಗ ರಾಜಕೀಯದಲ್ಲಿ ದೇಶದ ಸಜ್ಜನರು, ಮಾನಿಷ್ಠರು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಸೇರಬೇಕೆಂಬುದು ದೇಶಕ್ಷೇಮಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಶ್ಯವಾದ ಮೊದಲನೆಯ ಸಂಗತಿ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಡನ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಕಾಂಟ್ ಲೀವ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್. ಇಂಥ ನಿಜವಾದ ಪ್ರಜೋಪಕಾರವನ್ನು ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿ ಒದಗಿಸಬೇಕೆಂಬುದೇ ಗೋಖಲೆಯವರ ಸಂಘದ ಉದ್ದೇಶ. That is, the Servants of India Society was formed for that, not for occupying posts. Let me tell you from my little experience. Many people doesn't apply at all. You have seen KPSC selection. I had to strike it down. 3 ಜನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ 1, 2, 3 ಅವರೇ. How is it possible? It's a constitutional post, KPSC. Today selection is a farce. Forget about reservation. Even otherwise, so mechanically everything is done. Whether it is recruitment, whether it is seat for a professional college, anywhere there is politics. If you don't even make an application for job, what is your right to comment on that? You have decided, I will not get it. It's a fraud. Because when I was in a recruiting committee, I did not have necessary applications to give them employment. Because there are no applicants at all. It's a total withdrawal. Even election nobody. Don't stand for election. But don't be away from politics. 4 ಜನ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದಲ್ಲ, ಯಾರಿಗೆ ವೋಟ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು, ಇವನ್ ಚರಿತ್ರೆ ಏನೋ. ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಟುಡೇ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ನೋ ಚಾಯ್ಸ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿ ನೋಟ್ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನು ಉಪಯೋಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ? ವೋಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ, ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಒಬ್ರು ಗೆಲ್ಲೇಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಫೋರ್ ಈ 3 ಜನದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಅಯೋಗ್ಯರು ಅಂತ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಒಬ್ರು ಬುಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಕೈ, ಅವರು ಕಲ್ಚರ್ನೇ ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಅಂತ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನೋಡಬೇಕಾದ್ದು. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ದಿ 3 ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ದಿ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಸೇ ಆಲ್ ದ 3 ಆರ್ ಸ್ಕೌಂಡ್ರಲ್ಸ್, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ವೋಟ್, ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ದಿ ವೋಟಿಂಗ್ ಗೋಸ್ ಆನ್, somebody will get elected. What I am trying to say, this is what the position when Gokhale was there. This was the position when Constitution came. This is the position today. We have not changed. We are Indians. Question is it our culture? And how did we become like this? We became like this because of we should be grateful to Gokhale. He told the parliament what is our weakness. They destroyed our culture. They destroyed our education system. And the present education system is not going to improve matters. Your constitution is not going to improve or save this country. This democracy is not going to save this country. It is not the rule of law which will save the country. It is only the culture and the spirituality which is there in this country. So all of us, without entering into politics, of course doing our duty of voting on the voting day, if we can concentrate and see that culture is restored first in our houses and that culture is restored in our surroundings, probably we may not see the fruit of it in days to come. The future generation may have the benefit, because we can't be thinking of only of us. We had our share of good luck and bad luck, and time has come for us to part. Before we do that, probably we have to do this for the country. If you believe in this country, if you have the interest of the country at heart, notwithstanding all these things, still you can contribute. Still you can contribute for the welfare of the country, for preserving the culture of this country. And I hope that prediction of Lord Hon'ble will come true by in another 30 years. We may not be there, doesn't matter. If India can conquer the conquerors through their culture and not politically, then India will be the leader, and we need not wait for a seat in the UN Assembly. Or even otherwise, India would be a leader. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my views